Safety first. As per the last census, the Indian workforce is over 400 million strong. By 2024, that number could very well cross 600 million, a 39.1% of the total Indian population. Over 42% work in heavy industries, use heavy machines, cope industrial hazards. A 17% of India's GDP comes from manufacturing industries. Safety is the first aid of the uninjured. Safety tops all the priorities in industrial sector. Worldwide, we have 340 million occupational accidents and 160 million victims of work-related illnesses annually. 6,000 die every day. Safety is a challenge. Be it any industry, organization, or an employee, everyone needs to be safe. Humans do, machines do. Industrial safety parameters are getting complex with each passing day. Elimination of industrial hazards is a dire necessity. Prevention of work-related injury is a prerequisite. Ask Abhinav Dar, a manager from one of the Fortune 100 companies, who lost his employee to a fatal industrial accident. His workers lost morale. His company lost productivity by 20%. Questions stare right into our eyes. How to be safe? What is the solution? Who can keep us safe? Well, maybe God can, but we try too. We provide solutions. We help keep the industry safe and give you round-the-clock visibility of your assets. Maybe God can, but we try too. We provide solutions. We help keep the industry safe and give you round-the-clock visibility of your assets. We are the Hack Lab Solutions. We follow a 360-degree approach, considering all the three dimensions of safety implementation: management, machines, and workers. With advancement of AI, next-gen automation is all about machines and humans coexisting, each taking care of the other. Our aim, hence, is safety for productivity. We use IoT hardware integration with sharp AI edge processing, real-time environment monitoring, data insights, and worker safety profiling. We estimate risk, employ professionals, analyze scenarios, and provide solutions. Our systems can predict failures, warn you, and take action. Our suite of tracker products cater to major Fortune 500 companies and several industrial sectors ranging from FMCG, logistics, mining to metals, and manufacturing. Our safety product verticals include collision avoidance system, pedestrian alert system, AI-based compliance monitoring, safety interlocks, and smart traffic management system. Our security product verticals include tracker tags, smart tracker cam, tracker PA system. We have been recognized as the best Indian startup in the automation domain by Technovation Awards conducted by India Electronics and Semiconductor Association, IISa. We won the award for the Best Company and Innovation Showcase category by SIC IT Kanpur. We have gained trust of clients like Unilever, ITC, Pindalco Industries, and top Fortune 500 companies availing our products and services.
Good evening and welcome to another episode of Hack Lab Podcast, where we dive into stories of innovation, leadership, and technology shaping our world. Today, we are joined by Mr. Narayanan Subramaniam, a trailblazer who has driven disruptive technologies across electric vehicles, AI, and more. Get ready for an inspiring conversation about sustainability, ethics, and the future. Thank you, sir, for giving us your time.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Amber. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, sir. As we start our podcast, may I request you to introduce yourself for our audience?
Sure. I'm Narayanan. I've spent about well over 3 decades in industry. I've had the pleasure of working in a variety of domains, starting from telecommunications, networking, data center infrastructure, SaaS, AI, and now over the past 6 years or so with a lot more focus on sustainability and clean tech.
Right. So, what was the single most innovative breakthrough you spearheaded in electric vehicles and battery swapping technology? and how did it transform the industry?
Sure, great question, Amber. So perhaps let me give some context. So, from a software perspective, I helped to pioneer the use of edge compute and common platform constructs as a strategic architecture and design choice for battery swap stations. Remember, this is way back in 2017 when edge compute was still a relatively new concept, right? So, edge computing provided the ability to support local data processing, analytics, future edge AI, a very superior swap user experience, and modularity and headroom for a lot of innovation that assured asset security, safety, and so on and so forth. Now, the platform approach enabled battery swap stations for the first time to be able to support a very diverse and mixed range of hardware components via common interfaces that also leads to plug and play modularity and scalability, right? And using this, so I was able to develop platforms which could be repurposed for two-wheeler, three-wheeler, truck and bus products concurrently via different types of solutions, but same underlying platform. This is now bearing fruit because my client now and before employer, now client, is now a market leader in battery swap, and we are now deploying perhaps what will be the world's largest battery swapping vehicle solution for electric vehicles, which addresses range, anxiety problems, technology obsolescence, lower cost, and most importantly, for the set of
Yeah.
population or the workforce, light logistics, last mile, intracity, those workers, giving them an economically viable journey to a more sustainable future without compromise in income and so on. This is also very important, right? So there's a tech part which is very innovative, but there is also very strong purpose and social aspect which makes this even more meaningful.
So, how do you see AI-based solution enabling industries like steel and mining to achieve net zero carbon goals?
So if you look at it, steel production and mining are carbon intensive industries for which AI could have maybe two or three transformative impacts. The first time is around real time process control in steel production, right? Which is very carbon intensive. So what we have done in the past and what people are doing today also is using AI algorithms in the way that physics based models of process control are augmented with deep learning based AI models. When put together, it gives an opportunity to best optimize the mix of raw materials and process controls to mitigate emissions, which may be in the form of SPM, suspended particulate matter, or carbon dioxide, carbon monoxides. Now, when you come to the mining sector, the transport and initial processing of raw materials is very carbon and intensive and water resource intensive also, right? And there's an opportunity to use again deep learning combined with autonomous technologies because the mining trucks are enormous vehicles. So there is an electrification process going on to mitigate
Okay.
the scope 2, 3 related emissions. So that is one aspect. And the second thing is process designs. The good part is over the last year and a half to two, generative AI has kicked in and it is giving people
Mhm.
significant insights. And one area here is how can you restructure the existing way in which you process raw materials, etc., to reduce waste and excess water utilization. I think these are augmented tools which will start playing an increasingly significant role here because it also brings in lot of lateral learnings, right, and provides insights
Right.
or bubbles up insights that sometimes human might not see as obvious.
Yeah, I was thinking about the same concept that in the past, we as humans are putting our brains and trying
Yes,
to solve using certain factors. But with this incoming of AI, now we can incorporate even more lateral factors which can also have some
absolutely.
results. Okay, that will be the great
Yep.
use of AI. Sure. Sir, can you share a specific challenge you faced in managing a diverse global team and how you successfully navigated it?
I'll probably answer this question in this way without getting into a specific team or a specific organization. See, the most common challenge that I see in most corporate environments, I spent 3 decades in industry. The biggest problem,
Yes.
surprisingly, that I see is culture, right? And the
Okay.
impact it has not just in teaming and so on and so forth, but in the way products are engineered and developed. See, culture is a common shared set of values, hopefully driven top down in how we do business in an honest, transparent, and repeatable fashion. No compromises. Has this been a challenge?
Right.
Absolutely, yes. In many organizations that I've been a part of. Now, removing
Mhm.
fear and being open about challenges and developing trust is key to long term success. That's how you build a solid culture. And the way to go about this, for example, is to ensure that project challenges are not typecast as specific people or personality related issues. What do I mean by that? So, if some project or some module is red status, everyone gets very
Mhm.
tense about it. But let's make sure that, yes, that deliverable may be red or yellow or some less than ideal thing, but doesn't mean that the person is red. Okay. So
True.
personally, so what I do is I am very happy in any project review when there are lots of reds, when they are reported.
Mhm.
It means that there is an atmosphere of transparency. And I'm very uncomfortable when week after week everything is reported as green. Okay. So,
Yeah.
giving the comfort factor gives everyone the confidence that talking about red is fine. Working together is fine to fix it. That's even better. Walk the talk on this. It's simple and it just needs to start from the top. It has to be driven top down. Now, another
Right.
part of dealing with culture is also to invest in people's career, irrespective of whether they stay in your company or team or not. It doesn't matter for me.
Mhm.
This builds trust and long term affinity, right? And the final thing is part of building this culture and really strengthening it is also people to understand each other. Very often, I found I've worked in MNCs, global leaders come to spend time. They don't spend time with non executives, they don't spend enough time with engineers without big titles.
True.
Without this, they
Yeah.
don't get a pulse of the organization, neither do they get empathy for the variety of organizational issues. Many times, these corporate visits from somewhere sometimes seem like royalty visits for a few days to me. There's only papers over the
Yeah.
cracks and doesn't build relationships or empathy that is needed for an organization so that it doesn't decay into dysfunction.
I have two questions popped up in my mind when I was hearing you. First is about the trust. I think I'm not sure why, but trust level are going down in the
Yeah.
corporate world as we move into the AI phase, and especially after COVID-19 happened. And also, the second thing that popped out to me is I heard a lot about servant leadership. I'm sure you would have heard this term of servant leadership, where they say the title is not important, but companies don't work well enough to, because the title do matter at
Yeah.
the end. So, do you have any thoughts on these two
Yeah,
things?
let me come to trust. Trust is in many ways also a two-way street, right? And trust is
Yes.
something that has to be, it depends on your attitude. For me personally, I trust by default. I do not
Okay.
doubt by default. I trust by default. And you really have to work very hard in a negative way to betray that trust. Okay. So that makes communication open and transparent from beginning because you have trust by default. You're sharing all that needs to be shared. You are doing everything in a transparent way to enable success, not for you, for that person and
Mhm.
hence the team and the business, as a consequence of which you
Right.
also benefit, right? So it's just a different
Right.
mindset approach which is needed. When you have hired somebody,
Mhm.
I assume you've done a good job in hiring. So trust by default and empower the person to perform, right? And not the other way around, which many times happens in companies, right? Then the
Correct.
second point that you mentioned, titles are important because they convey a sense of roles and responsibilities within an organization, and more importantly, to stakeholders outside the organization, investors, shareholders, etc., etc., other company people who are the interface points for your organization. So that's why you have CEO, CXO doing different roles.
Right.
But carrying the title heavy on your head, that I am the CEO and hence I will not look at low level engineering issues. I will not talk to low level engineers. I think that's a flawed approach. That's where don't have a title is key. And you need to also ensure that people operate in an environment free of titles, because then only people will have open, transparent communication. That is the culture that needs to be built. When you say titles are not important, what is actually needs to be emphasized is that the specific person's hierarchy in the organization is just a hierarchy for operational reasons. It doesn't mean that the
Yeah.
person is any greater or lesser than anybody else. The openness of culture, taking feedback, understanding everybody's issues, and having that complete transparency in what is going on, that is where, irrespective of title, people should be free to operate. For me, that is the interpretation, right? Unfortunately, it's a mixed bag of results.
Mhm. So, moving forward, what was the most critical engineering or operational crisis you have faced, and how did you resolve?
Okay, I will keep this across the board. A lot of times, products fail in the field or in advanced, testing and so on and so forth, because one very important aspect is ignored. And this I have seen across almost every company that I worked on, right? And unfortunately, being faced with these types of tsunami of challenges when taking over a product or something sometimes seems to be my karma. I don't know why. Anyway, but the point that I'm trying to make is that the root cause is because what is most ignored is product serviceability and debuggability. Everybody
Okay.
ignores this, top down, CEO down, SVP down. Okay. From production to test and sometimes operations folks. I'll give you an example. In software development, everyone talks about agile, everyone talks about DevOps,
Yeah.
right? There's
Yes.
a nice
Yes.
buzzwords if you ask me, because in every demo, the happy parts are covered and everyone goes
Mhm.
home having chai and samosas, clapping, saying that everything is wonderful, right? But we all know
Right.
that all products have issues. How often have you seen agile product demos that walk through failures, recovery, show me the logs, show me how you're debugging for this type of a failure in production? Can you root cause this just by looking at it remotely without having to ask the customer to reproduce the issues? How many times have teams and engineers been rewarded for excellence in serviceability and support? Not because they crammed and finish a feature over multiple weekends. When we say that the product is shippable, doesn't it have to be debuggable, supportable, and serviceable? It's laughable at times when we say that product is ready, definition of done, we have completed retrospectives, but this important aspect is ignored. How can you ignore this and ship a product? So obviously you're going to have engineering and operational crisis because you have not looked at non-functional aspects, not just performance scale,
Yes.
but debuggability and supportability. In the old waterfall model, we can blame it for a number of
Mhm.
things. But I think the engineering rigor was stronger. I think we need to take the good parts from what has been developed in the past, because all the things that we enjoy today has been done also with waterfall model. Let us not forget that, right?
Yeah.
And the
Yes.
DevOps paradigm of metrics driven software development, it is not just CI/CD build deployment pipelines. It's a lot more than that. So I think this re-education everywhere across the organization, especially from top leadership down. Okay, people
Mhm.
need to understand what
Right.
is agile, what is DevOps, what is product debuggability, serviceability, why it's important, why so much of time has to be invested. There is so much of science in even writing a log or an alert that most people are not aware of. This is what saves the day when you have operational issues, and this is not well understood enough.
Right. Sir, how do you envision battery swapping station evolving to support the growing demand for heavy electric vehicles?
See, heavy electric vehicles are primarily in the business. So, heavy electric vehicles, in the business of transporting logistics and passengers. And depending on the use case, there are different requirements around range anxiety, turnaround time for charging, cost efficiency, etc., etc. So battery swapping actually has very compelling arguments because it is being cost effective not just from the capital standpoint. Why capital standpoint? Because you're not loading the cost of the battery into the solution, into the truck. The second thing is you have much lighter batteries compared to fixed battery solutions, probably around one third to 40% of the weight only. Okay. So it's being more cost effective from there. Hence, the energy consumed per kilometer is also much better, and you're able to take more load because there's less load occupied by your battery because of the battery swap capabilities. And the speed with which now you can interchange batteries. You can now do a truck battery swap within about 3 to 4 minutes. That's fast. That's about lesser than time actually than
Yeah,
it takes to tank a full tank of diesel. Okay. So there is another
true.
compelling
Yes.
use case around battery swap and so on for heavy electric vehicles is that these swap stations are actually huge energy banks. Okay, upwards of 1 megawatt because
Mhm.
each battery order of about 100 kilowatt, you may have anything between 10 to 20 batteries. So you're looking at anything between 1 to 2 megawatts. During lean periods of use, this can be used to stabilize the grid and give power back to the grid. For example, at nighttime usage, daytime charge by renewables,
Mhm.
nighttime stabilization of grid. It's a very important use case. And second life of batteries can be used also in swap stations, repurposed as heavy duty UPS platforms for small apartments and homes. That's another thing. And finally, the circular economy around this battery life cycle, recovering materials and so on, is good for battery swap because the original manufacturer is still in the loop. They are either doing the battery as service or
Mhm.
through franchisee model, right? So they're still in the loop with respect to recovering depleted batteries which are no longer useful for electric vehicles but still have second life use like for UPS or after that to recover the materials. So there's a nice thing, and the way that I see this evolving is through freight corridors, and then in cities having a hub and spoke model where heavy logistics distributes to lighter logistics for the last mile or end consumer standpoints. And this also provides a good trade-off between focus energy demand hotspots. Battery swap is a complex solution vis-a-vis fixed battery, but there are lots of these additional value adds also which are not available otherwise.
Right. So I think it's a full ecosystem. And but in India, as of today, like where do you think we stand? And according, I think we have a long road
Yes.
to go in this path.
There is a long path. The beauty of India is once technology adoption starts, no, it starts going in a meteoric pace. You can see that with the internet
Mhm.
explosion,
Yeah.
with the mobile revolution. Now,
Right.
increasingly, you will start seeing from space tech, from AI, from medical
Mhm.
applications, and so on and so forth. You will see a lot of innovations coming from India.
Yes.
Yes, we have been slow, perhaps slow in adoption, but as our economy grows, our domestic consumption grows, and as expertise grows, I think you will start seeing a multiplier effect that you might not have seen in other economies. So I am very bullish on India's
Right.
prospects.
Right. Sir, out of the 10 patents you hold, which one has had the most significant impact on its respective
Hmm.
industry and why?
Interesting. Okay, perhaps two parts to this answer, right? My first patent was used and is still being used in that product is the, I would say, world second and US's number one long haul wave division multiplexing optical network solution. So I have a patent
Okay.
in that around the management and control plane technology for that. And that was about 20 years old. And a lot of that, some of that code and technology is still running in all tier one networks in the US. So that gives a lot of satisfaction because that's the first thing that you wrote and it's still being used and so on, right? But if you look from an intellectual satisfaction standpoint, I did a lot of work on IP version 6 about 10 years ago. And perhaps my most satisfying work on that is I got a patent in the IP version 6 route discovery protocol that optimizes how IP version 6 traffic is set up, and the innovations put there could improve the traffic setup between 50% to 2000% because of the technology put inside there. And it was also the fastest issued patent for me. It just took a year and a half or so, if my memory serves. Right? That's pretty fast by US Patent Office standards, right? And given how IP version 6 is now increasingly needed because everything is starting to get connected, and there are challenges with V4 mapping
Yes.
and so on and so forth with the number of devices and unique devices. So I hope that this technology, amongst many others, also starts providing a path for more efficient networks, faster setups, and so on. So I think there's these two different ends of the spectrum.
Sir, how do you connect the dots between technology domains like AI, sustainability, and telecommunications to create disruptive
Okay, connecting
solutions?
the dots. That's one of my favorite topics. Thank you for bringing it up. All right. See, in general, I've always believed that it's important that every engineer, it's important to have a diverse experience. Okay. I think that is key because I've always believed in lateral learning, lateral applications, and the interconnectedness of various technology domains. Connecting the dots is always best done when you either look back, okay, or step back and look at the broader picture of what's happening. And that's where diversity helps a lot. But it requires one critical ingredient: the curiosity, eagerness, and hunger to keep learning new domains and skills with the belief and faith that things will eventually connect. That is also important. So, what I mean by this now is that
True.
yes, you have had diverse experience. Please continue that into new domains as well, because you will be able to more effectively connect the dots 5 years from now looking back, right? Okay.
Right.
So you develop the skills to see the bigger picture. And only then, when you start looking back, sometimes there's aha moment and these dots start connecting in mysterious and beautiful ways. There's no real science. Engineering also involves a lot
Right.
of art. So it's more of an art and based on natural curiosity, the willingness to imagine crazy things. So, see, heavy electrical palaces of creation. You have a palace here in actually between your ears, the
Mhm.
mental palace, where you can create the most wonderful things through imagination and through diversity of thinking and hence connecting the dots. That's where the dots start connecting.
Right, sir. Because sometimes when we try to diverge, it's important to see that in the future, how can we converge them into something
Yes,
specific or special?
yes. And one of the key approaches in innovation is exactly what you mentioned: divergence followed by convergence.
Right. So, what's the common mistakes which young engineers make, and how do you guide them towards a better approach?
I've had the pleasure of working with many young engineers even now, and they energize me, right? Mistake that I see, okay, increasingly is that many, not all, I'm not saying all, but many young engineers, I think, do not spend enough time reading in depth, going through the grind and making mistakes and repeating a task till it's well done. There's a lot of eagerness and excitement to show and tell quickly,
Yes.
but without the patience to really explain in depth or develop excellence or explore more by being curious. I think they're
Mhm.
curious, but it's superficial. You do something, hello world is working, run to the next one. See, learning and learning in depth is a lifelong skill. Developing patience is also a skill. So the best way I guide engineers actually on this is walk the talk.
Mhm.
And what do I mean by walk the talk? I've spent 30 years in industry.
Yes.
My learning hasn't stopped. I was at UC Berkeley doing a course on innovation and change management some time back. Then I did a 1 year intensive program from UT Austin, hands on development. This is all in the last 5 to 7 years on advanced AI. So I was submitting projects, doing a lot of coding. I still do production coding today. I write a lot of code today. Then followed by a 9-month program in Indian School of Business on digital transformation strategies. So I finished that.
Right.
Now I'm loving it. I'm in a 10-month technical program in space technologies,
Okay.
remote sensing, robotics, and AI in space, radar technologies, which leverages my electrical engineering background. And
Right.
I'm doing this course with Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, with support from ISRO. This is not to say that, oh, it's about me and so on. No, this is to show that learning and gaining excellence in anything is a lifelong process. And I read a lot. I do every morning 45-minute walk, audio books.
Okay.
I love history, geography, political science, war history, and so on and so forth. I'm learning the piano, which you can see at the back. I am a trained Tai Chi practitioner, so
Okay.
meditative martial arts. So there are different things like this, and nothing works better to help inspire than walking the talk and helping people understand that there is more to life than just the day to day work. You have to read, excel, have a strong purpose in life, and develop a all-rounded perspective in learning also, right? This is what I want. Control A, Control C, Control V. Select, cut, paste from Google, okay, is useful, or from Chat GPT is useful, but learn in depth. Many people take code today from GPT, cut, paste, put, it works. What is the challenge today? The challenge comes is when you have to debug it
Yeah.
because you haven't understood exactly how it's been written. It's functional. Right?
True.
That's what I mean.
True. So when you started with this answer, you mentioned about the superficialness, or we are not investing as much time to
Yes,
read and learn in depth.
yes,
Our span of concentration also has reduced.
absolutely.
Yes. So I
I
think
agree
we,
with you.
yeah,
And video shots,
yes,
10-second summaries, even GPT. I will tell you the problem with GPT.
yes,
Okay, it's great due to vector embedded databases and so on to organize content and give you the summary. It gives you the summary. It doesn't teach you the pain of creating that summary through a lot of exploratory learning.
true.
That is also a skill.
Yes.
You have very rightly put it. Our attention span has reduced, patience has reduced, right? We need to get back to some of those skills also. It's important.
Right. Yes, sir. So, we move to the last question of our conversation. So, what technology or trend do you think will most revolutionize industrial sustainability and fleet operations in the next decade?
I think it'll be a combination of tech will mature on its own. So we have AI, compute, memory, networking, infrastructure, all that will mature. But I think in order to be more holistic, material science technologies, biomimicry,
Okay,
okay,
biomimicry.
robotics, augmented with remote sensing, advanced remote sensing, and sensor based technologies, low power AI at the edge, low power AI, generative included, right?
Okay,
I think those will start setting the direction towards how we become more sustainable in the decades to come, right? While we do all of these things, yes, we also have to look at a lot of ethical considerations and so on and so forth related to technology itself. In this, I have taken a very simple mantra. Okay.
hmm,
I'm part of IEEE, which is the world's largest engineering organization.
yes,
They have a beautiful code of ethics, and the first line in that code of ethics is, you know what? Let me see if I can read it out for you.
yes,
To hold paramount the safety, health, and welfare of the public, to strive to comply with ethical design and sustainable development practices, to protect the privacy of others, and to disclose promptly factors that would endanger the public or the environment. While we look at technology trends, it's very important that we do it in an ethical fashion. So it's like how doctors take a Hippocratic oath. I
yes,
think engineers and
Also,
technologists and scientists need to do something similar. And all of this needs to converge, see? Because see, when you look at these technology trends, why I mentioned biomimicry and robotics is evolution. We have been perfected through evolution. We have the most low power AI in the world between our two ears,
yeah,
our brain. It
yes,
runs between 20 to 25 watts of power. No AI system in the world today can come close to this, right? So, evolution has a lot of lessons for us to learn, emulate, and undo the mistakes of our industrial past. I think that we should realize and see how we can employ it to become, to answer your question around industrial sustainability.
absolutely, sir. Thank you, sir, for joining us today. We have explored visionary insights and the incredible journey of Mr. Narayanan Subramaniam. Stay tuned for more inspiring conversations and don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, keep innovating, stay curious, and remember your ideas can change the world. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure to share some perspectives. Thank you.